Well, I am beyond excited to have my good friend Tom Cox on the show. Tom, welcome, brother.
Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate it.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Life has been crazy.
Yeah. All right. So for those who don't know who you are, kind of just give us a quick synopsis. Tom's been on the show multiple times, but let's give us a quick synopsis of who Tom is.
All right, quick synopsis. Let's see. Grew up knowing, like everyone listening, pretty soon had to be some kind of artist. Had no idea what that meant, what the options were. Went to college on a fine art scholarship. Transferred and went into old school, what I call old school advertising. If you've seen Mad Men, that's what it was. So came out of college with no computer skills. This is in 1990, probably before some of your audience was born. Uh, but anyway, that was the dawn of computer graphics, and I hit it hard. Very fortunate early on. Spent a couple of years learning my skills, and then got the opportunity to work at the Coca-Cola company here in Atlanta. Kind of the dream job for someone who grew up in this area. And I was there for 8 years. Had unbelievable opportunities to work on the Coca-Cola brand, Coca-Cola partnerships with NASA, Super Bowl, created new brands like Surge, and then just, like I say in the book, it was like a 8 year fire hose of a masterclass in branding.
That's awesome.
Um,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so that's my background, and then left there in about 2000, and have basically been on my own ever since. A couple of years ago, went with a full-on startup, which was quite the adventure, and it was learned a lot. And then after about a year of that, ran out of funding, and then so I've been back at this point in my life now after that to trying to decide what's next. I've had this book in the back of my mind for 10, 15 years, and I thought it's kind of now or never. So I dove in, and here's where we are.
So Tom is being, very modest, and most of these well-established designers are very modest. So he didn't just like he is the brainchild behind the Surge. He was the one that came up with that idea with the design at least, as far as I can remember. And one of the things that Tom does in his creative process that I've tried to implement and I still like brag about it is the whole idea of him kind of like bringing his clients in and just having all of these different elements and these materials and these collaterals for them to look at and kind of just go through it. And I thought that was cool. From the first time I talked to him and he told me about that part of his process, that kind of stuck with me. So the dude has done a lot branding for Woodstock, Georgia. Like there's so much, it's so much. So just, I know you're a modest guy, but this man knows what he's
Well,
doing.
if they want to see more, I've actually just redid my website, and I have my portfolio
Hmm.
in like a chronological order.
Hmm.
Uh,
Sweet.
so it kind of shows the beginning to the end. The funny part is I did the Always logo right
Hmm.
here. First logo I ever designed.
Look at that. See, I didn't even remember that part. So there you go. That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome. All right, so we're here today to talk about this book that
yeah.
I did not know was coming so fast. And I just saw, and if you know Tom, once he releases something, he's just full on like boom, 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 back to back, back to back, back to back, and just creating. He does a good job of creating a momentum on something that he's releasing. So, Tom, tell us about your book and kind of talk us through like what made you want to write a book in the first place.
Sure. So, like I said, I've been thinking about it for many years, um, and I think with the rise of social media and the rise of what I see and kind of I don't know, this might be a controversial take or whatever, but what I see out there is how people approach brand identity and logo design is completely different than how I've done it for 30 years. So I've had it in my mind for a long time to say, well, maybe we should put something out there that's like an alternative. Not that this is completely unique. I'm sure there's people out there, other firms, other people who do similar, but it's just been like this kind of thing in my, and there's, friends and other designers have asked me or mentioned to me, maybe you should write how you do this because it is different. So that was kind of the genesis of it. Yeah, that's where I started.
So why tell us the book title and why in the world did
Okay.
you give it this title?
Okay. So I'll just show you. So the title of the book is What the Hell Is This? Creative Freedom Brand Growth. And so the reason for that title is that was a, okay, let me just kind of set the scene. We've all been there as designers where we're given this project, we're super excited about it. We dive in. This is something that happened to me early on in my career before I had all this kind of figured out. And I tell this story right at the beginning of the book, but it's basically I'm at Coca-Cola. I'm given an opportunity to work on a rebrand of a globally known brand. I can't really tell you what it is or was, but anyway, it would have been a huge freaking deal. And I just dove in. I was like, oh, I got these great ideas. I'm going to do this and this and this. And I went into this presentation with this really high up global vice president of brands. And I went through my whole spiel, the whole song and dance, and this we could do this and we could do this and blah blah blah. And I get through, and he's just watching, he's nodding, he's looking. And I get through, and like, well, there you go. And he looks at me, and he looks at the work, and he looks back at me, and he goes, "What the hell is this?" And I went from thinking I was God's gift to Coca-Cola to wondering if I was going to keep my dream job. And that was a pivotal day in my career because literally from then on, I knew I had to go into a presentation knowing the why, not just the look how cool this is or look what I did or, all that, which I feel like a lot of designers get caught up in that. And it's easy to do, but you got to know the why you're creating something and how and why it's going to connect with the consumer that you want to connect with, that you need to connect with.
Hmm.
And you got to know what you're trying to communicate with that design, not just, hey, it's cool, it's trendy, it's, you know, that kind of stuff. You've got to really dig in deep and know what you're doing. So that's the reason for the title of the book. And the subhead obviously is Creative Freedom Brand Growth. And that's just something that I've experienced over the last 20 years with clients. Some are, big brands. Some are small business. Some are startups. But a lot of them don't know, they think, oh, I just need a logo.
Hmm.
But my experience is, no, you need to give me the creative freedom to provide you with creative leadership so that we can create something that's going to add value to your brand.
I love that.
So that's the premise. That's the gist of the book.
So as you look to write a book, right?
Hmm.
How did you kick it off? Like, how did you start? Like that, because that to me, like just the thought of writing a book, I wouldn't even know like where to start. Like, how did you even start?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to basically give away how I do this because let's be honest, I'm at the age. Hopefully, I've got 20 years
Wow.
left to doing this. But we all know I may not have another day.
Right.
That's just life.
Right.
But I felt like The information in here is what I was searching for night and day when I came out of college, when I got the job at Coke, when I was trying to figure out how to create something with the why, with the reasoning. And I couldn't find it. I mean, back then there was no internet, but I was searching books and magazines and portfolios and anything I could find, which, there's a lot of portfolio design books out there, and that's great. But I wanted this to be just straight insight and information to how do you do this?
Mm.
How can I do it? And so that's what this is. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's a video course. Maybe it's, I don't know, all these other options that I was thinking through. And of course, book was one of the options. And I just decided I want to do this as I thought, quick and as easy as I can.
And how many years later?
uh, 2 years later, so I don't know if it had been any quicker if I'd have chose the other, channels to do it, because I wanted to get it right. There was a lot of thinking to go through, and to be honest, I wrote one book and basically scrapped it
Mm,
and pulled out just the guts of it to make this.
mm,
But I think I mean, my intention has never been to become an author. I just wanted to share this information.
right.
But I would guess that that's part of writing for writers is sometimes you just got to, it's kind of like design. Sometimes you just got to get it out of your system and then find what's really valuable in there and go with that. So that's how it happened.
So kind of tell me a little bit. I'm so curious about the process, if you don't mind sharing. Like, kind of tell me
Sure.
how did you kind of go from like getting it out there to kind of fleshing it out, like organizing it?
Yeah. So I'm grabbing this right here. So I started with this. It is full, you know, and I started there and I just started collecting my thoughts of what do I need to say? How do I say it?
Hmm.
I mean, just basically just kind of vomiting that into that yellow pad and then taking that and building kind of an outline
Hmm.
and, going through that. Um, the core of the book is my process
Right.
and it's in 3 chapters. So I'm doing a post tomorrow about my first review, which is from my daughter. And she now works for Disney.
Awesome.
So she talks, she she often uses Disney characters to explain things. So she read the book and she has a little bit of a design background and she's very creative. And she said, I hear your voice, but in my mind, I see the genie from Aladdin in a Rocky training montage. And I thought about it and I was like,
That's awesome.
she's kind of right because there's a lot of the first part of the book, I tell the story of the impetus for my process and my thinking.
Hmm.
And then I really kind of dive into my feelings and my beliefs of the value of artistic intensity in branding and the value of artistic talent. I think that gets overlooked a lot when we discuss design and brands. So there's a lot of, rah rah, kind of pep rally, kind of sermon, kind of,
Right.
you got this, we got this. We're worth a lot to help brands grow. And then I go from there, just diving in. And my hope is that there's pieces of this that designers can take and even use when they're talking to clients or potential clients as, metaphors or just insights that they can share with clients to help them get work. So that's kind of the first part of the book, and then it dives into the process
Hmm.
of how I walk a client through a brand identity project. And one of the things I say in the book, and I think it's might take a lot of people by surprise, but I never ask for a creative brief because I don't want non-creative people determining the direction of the brand before we really dive in deep. and immerse into what is clearly the brand and who is your ideal consumer.
So unpack that for me a little bit. Like, so I come
Okay.
to you, Tom, and I said, listen, I got these are the colors I would like to have. This is like, what are you saying to me at this point?
I say, well, Daryl, that's awesome. I'm glad you like those colors. But what I would like to do is walk you through a process that I've walked other brands through, from Coca-Cola to Holiday Inn to brands that I've worked with for years. It's the same process. But what I would like to do is look at, let's figure out really what is the core of your brand, who specifically is your ideal consumer, and what is the colors that the ideal consumer likes
Mm,
and connects with. Because at the end of the day, you can't sell your brand to yourself.
right,
So it would be something like that, you know, very nice. But usually, if they're coming to me, I mean, not that I haven't had that happen,
right.
but uh, that's usually what I say is like, look, let's do this kickoff meeting. And to be honest, I've never clients love doing how I do this. They love it. I mean, it's kind of a running joke with me and my wife after every one of these projects or the sessions. When I get home, she says, how'd it go? And I was like, they loved it. They always do.
Mm,
Because it allows them, pretty soon into the session, they realize, oh, the burden's not on me to figure all this out,
right.
but I am giving my input.
Hmm.
I'm part of the creation process. But what I thought was the creation process, the start of the creation process, is actually going to be way over here. And we're coming back here to get it all right before we get to the real start of the design process.
That's all. You know, there's only one other person that I know for sure. I'm pretty sure other people may do it, but like does something similar to what you do. Is Jeremy Slagle.
Hmm.
Jeremy actually takes them to the store. And like if they're doing like a package, he'll take them to the store and be like, let's go in the store and like let's look at what you like. Let's touch textures and all that stuff. I know
Yeah.
that's similar
Yeah.
to what you do.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like it
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. But I feel like at times those stuff and I think also you have to have a little bit of I don't know, a little bit of a like a confidence with you, knowing that like you're the creative, but they actually have like they live and breathe whatever they're trying to get built, and they have the information. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
think
So, so here's the beauty of that.
yeah,
I'm so glad you brought that up. The more I've done this the way I've done it, like I mean, I learned majority of this at Coca-Cola, and that was working with some of the most brilliant people in the world as far as brand people go. But then I got out of Coke and I started working with some small brands and started doing this and ran into similar things where they're like, well, we know what's going on here. We know the brand. But the more I've done it, the more confidence I've got.
hmm,
The first time I actually did it, I was contracting with a small business that had made like $20 million a year for about 25 years in a row. Nothing had changed other than I came in, I totally redid their brand. None of their executives level people had changed. Nothing had changed. We redid the brand. Within 2 years, they had tripled their revenue to $60 million. And I was like, this works really, really good. So that gave me confidence moving forward.
tell me
Um,
about it.
yeah. So, but it also gives the process, the way I do this process, it gives the client confidence in me
Hmm.
because I'm coming to them as a partner, a
Right,
collaborator, not a order taker.
right,
And I'm sharing my knowledge with them so that they give me the knowledge I need
hmm,
because they do know the brand better than I do. But one of the very first things I do when I set up this meeting is I I asked for, I need at least 8 to 12 people in this meeting. And I don't want all the executives. I want the final decision maker, other top executives, and then I want people from the middle of your company, and I want people at the very bottom of your company. Because I want to hear what everybody thinks the brand is. So my first question to this group is write down the 3 words that best describe your brand. So then you got 12 people, and they're writing down 3 words that best describe the brand that they all work at and have worked at for years. I've never had anyone write down the same 3 words. So that immediately says, oh, maybe we don't know what we're doing.
Mm,
Maybe this guy does. Maybe he can help us.
mm,
And by the end of the session, we have 3 words we agree on. That's your brand clarity.
mm,
So that's where the confidence comes from. That's where I think the value for designers to operate and think this way comes from.
mm.
Because I mean, you know how it is. When you're young, starting out, you don't have the confidence to charge what you should be charging.
Right.
The more you gain confidence, the more you're like, oh, I can charge more.
Hmm.
I can do this. I can charge. Which was a huge hurdle for me. But the more this grew, the more my confidence grew, the more success I had to show. I was charging more and more and more.
And one of the things too, Tom, to add to that is that like once you have like this is the discovery part. Once you have a process, not even so much the design part, but once you have a process
Right.
with the discovery part, I think that's when, like for
Yes.
me, it's been a few years now, but like once I had a process for the discovery part, my confidence,
Yeah.
because I already knew how I'm going to get the information out of you.
Right. Yeah. 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 I mean, that's the look. We got so many super talented artists in the design
Hmm.
community. I mean, it's insane. But I know so many of them that are scraping by, and it really shouldn't be that
That's
way.
very
I
true.
mean, it's part. I mean, I hope this. I hope designers get this, and they may not do it exactly how I've
Hmm.
written it here, but maybe they can take pieces of it and build, like you said, their own process,
Hmm.
so that it gives them confidence and helps them increase their stature in the eyes of their clients and potential clients.
So how do you, because one of the things that I've like, when is someone that's worked with me before or have been recommended, they kind of just follow my process. But how do you get them to kind of realize, like, hold on, let's slow down. This portion, this discovery portion, is going to take some time. There's no rush. How do you
Yeah,
kind of like comfort them in this, like, let's just take our time to get this part right?
that's a good question. I mean, I think it's the more you do it and the more that they come to you. Part of it is, I'm trying to think back to when I wasn't as confident, but I think part of that was just learning to communicate quickly, like almost from the time you meet this person
Mm.
or get an email from this person or get a phone call from this person, you immediately start into this is how I've done it in the past, and it has shown great success.
Mm.
So if you would like, let's do it this way.
Gotcha.
If they don't want to do it that way, then it's up to you to decide,
Right.
do I want do I want the potential headache, the hassle of revision after revision after revision?
Mm.
Do I need the money? Which, hey, a lot of times you just need the money.
Right. It's
You
true.
just need the
It's true.
so you take whatever you can get. But I think the more just the calm confidence you can show in your building portfolio, the more people will be like, and I would say if they come to you and they say, well, we like these colors, like, okay, we'll keep that in mind. And, as we go through this, those will probably be the colors, but we might find some other interesting insights that we could maybe add some or take some of these away, you know, those type things. To me, it's a calm confidence that, because like I said, if you can just get them into that session,
Mhm.
that's where their eyes open up and they realize, oh, I need this person to help guide me through this process, and they're going to add way more value than I was thinking of what I needed. I mean, I've had people come and say, I need a logo. And I get them into this process, and we go through it. And there's been times where I said, you know what? You don't need a logo. You need a brand.
Mm, wow, that's cool. That's cool. So, what would you say? Two questions. First one is,
Mm-hmm.
from writing a book, what was I guess, the biggest thing you gained? Like, either gained or learned from writing a book?
Um, I learned that my wife is very patient. I learned it was a really good thing because I've been telling friends about this for years, but I've never took the
Mm,
time to put it and condense it so that I can just talk freely about it, kind of like I am tonight.
right.
You know, so I think that's the big thing that I got out of
Mm,
it, and that uh, you know, as like we're talking about, it has added more confidence to
for sure.
what I do and how I do it.
Hmm.
Um, so
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what was the hardest thing about writing a book?
the hardest thing is editing yourself. Or was for me. I mean, it's a very short book,
Right.
and I intentionally wanted that because it's small and it's a quick read. But and I think I mentioned it in one of my videos. Is I remember when I was that hungry age and looking for any information I could get. I wanted all the information I could get, but I didn't have time to read a big thick book
Right.
or take a course because I was broke and busy. And there's no harder place to be than broke and busy. So I wanted it to be something quick that designers could read quickly. I mean, you can read this in an hour or less, probably.
Yeah.
Something they can refer back to, something they can get, into they can take it in quickly and start using it right away.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny when you say that. I don't know if you remember that book. I forgot what it's called. It's rectangle and it's big and thick. It's like a freelancer's. It's like this. It's basically almost like a manual, but it tells you everything about
Okay.
freelancers. It's like
Right.
I remember one time I wanted that book. It was so expensive. One of my good friends, I'll never forget it till this day. All I see is that
Yeah.
I get it in the mail. It's this huge book. The artwork is like awesome on the front, but it's like everything about freelance. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I can't
It was like the price guide or ethical price
Something
guide
like that,
or
but I can't remember it. But it looks amazing. But like I remember when he
yeah.
sent me back that book. I was glad I got it, but I was like, I'm just like
Yeah.
skimming. I'm like skimming. I'm just trying to get
No,
to
no.
the parts because
Uh,
I could not go
I,
through that entire book.
yeah. So here's what I mean. I've had all those books through the years from all the different designers, different experts, and I'm like you. I go, where's the good stuff? And I read a little, and then I put it down, and I get busy, and I forget, and it doesn't seek in. And
100%.
so yeah, and so I decided 2 years ago when I was going to write this, I'm not going to read any other design stuff until I finish this book
Mm,
because I want this to be my thoughts, my insight, my experience of how I can hopefully help people. Um, so I have it. I I'm sure that there's books that I read in the past that maybe have influenced some of this. I'm positive, but most of the stuff that I read on my own is I love art. I love the art world. Um, I read art. I read fashion, history, uh, all that. And to me, design is art. I know some people get in a big discussion about that, but to me, it's art. So one of the things that you'll discover when you read this is each there's three phases of my process, and so I labeled then by art movements.
Mm,
So the first one is about clarifying the brand, and to me that's expressionism, because you got to boil it down to what's the core emotions that this is all about. And then the second phase is about identifying the ideal consumer, so that's portraiture. And then the final phase is bringing those two together in order to change the way people see the brand,
mm,
and that's cubism, because cubism is about seeing something from different
different
perspectives,
perspective. Hmm.
and that's what this is. You're trying to change. You're trying to have someone walk up to a brand on a shelf in a store and look at that product, that packaging, and have them change the way they see it for them to be interested and buy it. And you've got that long to do it,
That's awesome.
and that's what this process is all about.
Awesome. Man, so you I saw your book and I was like, I need to bring I used to do something years ago and I just haven't had the time. But I used to do something called like a giveaway Friday, right? So your book has inspired me to ramp that back up. So I'm gonna buy a few.
Oh,
I'm
cool,
gonna give I'm gonna give a couple away. But I'm
awesome,
looking forward to get it. Selfishly, I'm buying one for myself because I want to see the entire process because I know for sure I don't take them as in depth as you, and I would love to do that. I would love to bring out all the stuff that I've ever created and just put it on a table and be like, listen, what do you like? What do you don't like? And just kind of hear the
yeah,
thoughts. And I love that question that you asked. So every time I talk with people like you, and I'm like, man, that's cool. I didn't even think to do that. So, like the question about what the words, what three words, like those are some really cool things to kind of hear because I'm doing business more so now with people that have an established brand, you know, and it's
yeah,
different from when a new one, you know what I mean? You kind of help them
yeah,
carve that out. When it's an
right,
established brand, it actually can be at times harder because they've been set in their ways for like so long.
right. And that's the beauty of that question. Like I said, is like that example I used earlier with the company that was making like 20 million a year for years. They've been in business for like 20 or 25 years. I mean, they were established. But I looked at it and I said, you could be so much more. I mean, the design just flat out sucked. I mean, it was just bad. But they did. But even beyond that, they didn't know really specifically who they were.
Hmm,
They thought they were. I mean, it's. I've seen this 100 million times that brands, people that own brands, run brands, think they got to be everything.
it's true.
No, you got to be
Right.
this. You got to be one thing.
Hmm.
So I think personally that designers are the best people to walk a brand through that.
Hmm.
Just the way we think, the way we look at things. Not that there's not, writers or filmmakers or photographers, you know, that can do the same thing, which I hope those people will try this out as well because I think it could help any of them in their processes. But
Absolutely.
to me, I call all those people artists.
Hmm.
And that's why I've referred to it over and over in the book, in my social media, is it's the artist. Our culture, our society has devalued art and artist for years and years and years. I see a little bit of that turning maybe.
Hmm.
Hopefully this can help do that a little bit more. But I think there's so much untapped value in brands that an artist could help bring out, connect with people.
That's awesome. All right, before we close, let's jump into some fun questions. What is that one thing that you can't live without that's not your phone?
Ooh, can't live without. That's not my phone. Yikes. Wow. That's a great question. I got so many things popping in my head. I don't want to.
Hit it with the first
I
one. The
mean,
first one. Whatever the first one was, do it. Go for it.
First thing that thought in my mind was my wife, so I'll go with that.
Listen, fair enough.
Yeah, I need all the points I can get.
All right. Any outside of your book, of course. What's a good book recommendation?
Well, I the book that's had the biggest impact on my career. Thought it was right here. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Oh, it's right here. And it is from. Let's see, what was this? It is from 2002, and it's by Scott Bedbury. And it's called A New Brand World.
Mm,
Another small book, but so just to go back real quick, I came out of Coca-Cola in 2000, and I started trying to say, okay, is what I was doing inside Coke going to work out here? So that book came out right after that, and he was the head of marketing at Nike when they created Just Do It, and then he left there and became the head of brands for Starbucks when they were exploding across the world. So he has some good experience.
he knows a thing or two.
But I read that and I was like, I mean, it was very insightful, but it was also validation of I know what I'm thinking and what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
I can do this. It was a confidence builder.
Nice. I love that. I love that. I love that.
So
So, what's the first
yeah,
hour of your day like now?
the first what part of my
Hour.
day?
First hour.
First hour of my day. I get up, I make the coffee, I meditate for about 20 minutes, and then I go walk
Nice.
for about 3 miles.
That's probably my favorite
Um,
thing to do is just go for a walk. It just kind of, I don't
yeah,
know. It's just one of my favorite things to do.
yeah. I got really dedicated to that ritual about I don't know about 6 months ago now, and I've done it practically every day, and it has been a huge help in my life.
That's awesome. So, what's next for Tom?
Yeah.
What is next for Tom?
Well, right now it's promoting the heck out of this
Let's
book any way
go.
and every way I
Let's
can.
go.
I need people to buy it and put reviews on Amazon, and yeah, just promoting the heck out of it. But I do, I figure I'd like to do some more speaking.
Hmm.
I've done speaking in the past, so want to try to engage with that some more again, and maybe do some little coaching, and yeah, that's kind of and any big, I kind of want to be. I'm at the point now where I feel like I can be a little bit more selective of the projects. So if the right one comes
Yep.
along, I would love to help people grow their brand, and so
I love
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
we'll see.
And with this book, I feel like
Yeah,
you just, one thing I've told, one thing, because I've been a part of a few, I'm on my way to be a part of probably my fourth book campaign, right? And one of the things I've learned is that you got to see a book as a business card, and it will get you into doors otherwise you wouldn't have been able to, because
sure.
you can always say, okay, I want to talk about a book. A school would take you,
Yeah,
a prison would take you, like almost anywhere. Anywhere. A business
yeah,
person will take you, like anyone will take you if you want to talk about a
yeah,
book. So that's one of the things like I've learned about like a book. You gotta look at it as like a business card, a very unique one.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. That's the plan. Yeah, I put it on my. I want to empower other artists. That's kind of my core mission now. So
Sweet, sweet. So where can people go to find you and learn more about you?
they can go to tomcoxdesign.com, and they can go if they're interested in the book. They can go there and click the link, and or they can just go straight to Amazon.
I love what you did with the website to where like the focal point is the book. It reminds me of back in the days when like they did like an album release and they
Yeah,
would use that like the album would be the front facing of the
yeah,
website when
the
it
site.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that was I
yeah,
love that. That was when I saw it I was like,
yeah,
yo, this is I love this.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Cool.
Well, brother, this has been awesome. You
Yeah.
know,
Thank you. I
any
love,
way I could
love
help, always, I'm here for you, bro.
appreciate it, man. Really do. Love what you're doing.